Good afternoon, everyone. I just thought I'd take a break here from some of the things that I've been working on, particularly trying to find the right model, shall we say, or the best model, I'm not sure how we would characterize it, for film on Steemit, feature film on Steemit. I checked out the Ethereum movie project, I guess it's called, and I found it pretty interesting. It's, I guess, in production now. I guess it's shooting in Australia. I take it maybe by the end of this year. But anyways, having said that, it's more of a docudrama I hear, and it's something that I wish them all the best on, without question. I'm not sure though that the model that they're using is the right model that's going to create for Ethereum what I think we can do for Steemit, just because of the model we're working with, the platform we're working with Steemit. I think, well, it's interesting how opinions and whatnot always come into play. Of course, I'm going to be opinionated in some ways, and others in other ways. And I couldn't help but notice that the big brouhaha and con right now about Netflix coming over and introducing a couple of films into the Cannes Film Festival, and before they even opened up the gates, some of the more traditionalists are saying that that although they're film, I guess they aren't entitled to have a crack at the Palme d'Or, the big prize, because they don't have a theatrical release. It's all on the small screen. I find that very fascinating. Where the actual distribution or presentation of the film to the audience should dictate whether the film itself is an award-winning film or not. I'm sure it'll all be talked out, and I'm sure that dust will settle, and I'm sure there'll be compromises here and there. But I think it's pretty interesting, and it just kind of gives us an indication of maybe what we can be looking for as we start looking at exploring film possibilities in Steemit. I would like to think that it's film in a general sense, and by that I mean film for sure, but including documentary, short film, feature film, and so on. And because of that, then, I think that what we'd want to do is maybe to establish a universal model of film production, presentation, whatnot for Steemit. Now, having said that, I don't really know what it means, except to say that it should be inclusive. If you have something that you are just hell-bent for leather on wanting to get done because it's a big part of your life, then the model that would be best suited to you, and I think to Steemit, is one whereby you could launch the project itself from the get-go. Or you could launch it at the point of distribution, or you could launch it at the point of production as opposed to pre-production or post-production, and so on. The point I'm making is, I think it's got to be or it should be ideally, a very, very open platform that everyone can get involved in, as I say, right from the get-go, if you wanted to. And what it should allow is, I think, the ability to, although again elective on the part of the people that are undertaking the project itself, would allow people to actually launch the project, as I said, on Steemit, and carry right through the production level, right through to release. Now, there are going to be some difficulties as regards release. I first of all thought that we would have a world premiere on Steemit. I think that's very possible. And I think that's still a goal of what we should be looking at when we look at film on Steemit. But we also want to remember that there are also benefits to be able to release the film outside of Steemit, and to have understandings maybe in place whereby the revenues generated by the film outside of Steemit, with a theatrical release, for example, might be set up in such a way that that cash flow as it comes in, for example, may be funneled into the purchase of Steam, and thereby creating opportunities for other ventures, or just uniquely the ventures that in fact, or the venture that in fact you're working on at that time. I'm not sure I buy into this idea of the collective, in the sense that with Ethereum, where they are guaranteed to do a film a year, or suggesting they will do a film a year, and that the coin is based on that, and so on, or the blockchain is based on that, etc. You know, I've often found that in situations like that, when you're looking at 1 a year, or 2 a year, or 5 a year, whatever it is, sometimes just to keep the ball rolling, you may make some bad judgments as to what you should or shouldn't be doing. Therefore, I don't like that hierarchical approach to it, where somebody at the top makes the decision on the films or whatnot. That's why I like it decentralized, to the point where the individual whose project it is the one that should be the driving force behind it. And that could be the editor, the writer, the DOP, the director. It doesn't matter. It's just that the person who launches the project is the driving force behind it. And the system that we have has got to allow us to be able to support that type of methodology, that type of thinking. I've also come to the conclusion that a world release on Steemit would be to an advantage of not only a film, but would be to an advantage, obviously a big advantage to Steemit. Assuming that Steemit uniquely can, compared to Ethereum or anybody else, can uniquely account for the actual creative process happening within the platform. And that's the way I saw it initially. That is to say, that somehow or another, this idea of building it in real time on Steemit, whatever the film project may be, I think is great validity. And thereby, somehow or another, what Steemit needs to be able to do is to be able to support that development, and in return for that support, benefit. Now, there are others that are in this, have been in this a lot longer than I have, to say the least, and know a hell of a lot more than I do. But my thinking is that it's somehow an opportunity to integrate a film within Steemit, but at the same time allow that film life outside of Steemit, but in return for that, somehow revenues or whatever made by that film come back to benefit Steemit, and or the person who launched the project. Again, it's very complicated, as you can see. Certainly for me, anyways. Maybe not for a lot of you out there. It is very complicated because, as you know, we're bent on releasing Stoker's Furnace as a full feature film release on Steemit, and what we want to be able to do is make sure that as we go along and do this, that we're not going down obviously any dead end alleys, but also are developing a project, a methodology, a model that others can use to follow. Anyway, as I think more on this, I'll get back to you. and we can talk about it then. All right. I'm going to be working all weekend on the screenplay, Stoker's Furnace. I've got a lot to do on it yet. And I think maybe through that process, as I'm going through that, as I should say, that process, maybe some things will come to me as regards the model that we might use for release of future film. Anyways, having said that, thank you very much for your time. And again, I apologize for my voice. I was getting more hoarse. And I'm hoping I can get this voice back into shape pretty quickly. But you take care. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.